Hey, this is the antisocial socialite back at it again. Shout out to all the wonderful new subscribers and returning friends. Welcome. If you are new to the channel, you have not yet subscribed. What are you waiting for, darling? Hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, so when I get to running this mouth, baby, you are in the loop. You see the title, you know what time it is. Oh my gosh, it's late as hell here in the UK. It's like nearly 2:30 a.m. Sunday morning. I gotta be at work at 7, and I've just come from a live stream, and I'm so wound up. I just want to shout out all of the new subscribers. I really appreciate you for hitting that subscribe button, and shout out to Celine in the building. She says, "Hi, darling. Hello, darling. How are you doing?" So I was just on a live stream with a brother from the UK called Mr. Uganda, and I did share the link. So if you guys haven't watched that live stream, please go back and check it out. And there was a lady on that live stream who basically is a Sinji supporter, and she had an opportunity to come up and discuss why she just wanted to clear some things up, basically. Her position when it came to single motherhood, and her position when it came to things like fathers for kids and black men in the black community, and how these women were not necessarily to blame for the way the relationship was going. And I was really irritated in that conversation. Like, my fuse is very short. There's certain things I'm going to struggle with. And a lack of logic and reason is definitely one of those things, especially when something is supposed to be quite clear and obvious and pretty much common sense. Okay. So this lady just was basically pulling out a lot of um, the typical debate tactics that we see with women in the female sector. A lot of deflecting, a lot of when you try to bring a conversation about something that's very general, they try to make it, counter it with individual arguments. And then when you try to talk about personal accountability, then all of a sudden they're talking about the general state of the collective community, or something that really doesn't have anything to do with anything. Oh my God, Afropolitan. This was a nightmare and a half. Shout out to Red Pill Awareness in the house. I really appreciate everyone who's coming through, especially you guys who are in the UK, because it's super late here. And basically what I was trying to get through to this lady is that at the end of the day, you are free in a country where you have the right to pick any man you want. You don't have to date any man you don't want to. Okay, it's not like you're in a place or a country where you have forced marriages, because a lot of people think arranged marriage is the same as a forced marriage. No, an arranged marriage is supposed to be the family of the bride and the family of the groom, or the man and the woman. They come together and say, I have a daughter that I think would be good for your son, and vice versa. Now, the people involved are still supposed to have the right to say, we don't like each other like that. We don't think a marriage would work. And that way the family will go and look for somebody else. And one of the reasons why dating in the 21st century, and especially in the West, has become so difficult is because people are so isolated. We have to leave our families, we have to leave maybe our hometowns and things like that to pursue careers. We have to leave our hometown to pursue all kinds of education. And so as we move further and further away from our network and the people who in theory are supposed to know us intimately, we then have to become more reliant upon our own judgment. And if we have good judgment, then things might work out. But if we have if our perception is not level and not straight, we will go into situations thinking we've got it all figured out, and we end up putting ourselves in these crazy positions. And this is the kind of stuff that I was trying to explain to this lady. Um, Celine says, but antisocial, they want to date Chief Keef, and as soon as he gets her pregnant, she wants to snap his she wants to snap his fingers to become Heathcliff Huxtable. And it's funny you say that, Celine, because although we joke about that a lot, shout out to Dimitri in the building, and you know, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, guys. Um, although we joke about this a lot over on Little Big Nate's channel, and he coined that phrase, and it is so funny when he shows the picture switching between Chief Keef and Cliff Huxtable. This is actually what this lady kept on saying, and it was getting quite draining for me, which is one of the reasons why I'm actually doing an after stream rant about it. Okay, because this lady, what I've come to realize with these women, when they say, why is it these men don't marry us? What I've come to realize is what they mean is, why isn't the man that I've elected decided to put a ring on it? Which is not the same as dating as it's supposed to be. Dating is supposed to be data collection. It's supposed to be you go out and you meet somebody and you go in the daytime and you get coffee and you share food and you talk about your future and your goals, and you talk about what you want to do in the next 10 years, and do you want children, do you not want children? You ask all the hard questions, and you go bowling and you go watch a movie and you go to the fair and you watch how the person interacts with your friends and your family and the waiter and all that kind of stuff that we hear about. That's what dating is supposed to be, because you cannot know everything about a person before living with them. I agree with that. I believe that. There's certain things you won't learn about yourself until you live with somebody. And that's because, you know, people are a mirror. Adam, according to the scripture, was a man without a rib, and Eve was a rib without a body. They were designed to complement each other, and where one lacked or had a weakness, the other was supposed to compensate. So we're never going to have perfection, but sometimes our friends, our family, even our spouse, maybe even children, they're going to develop our character in a way that couldn't necessarily happen without those relationships and interactions. So, yes, living with somebody is going to challenge you differently from living separately. Now, I don't support cohabiting. I don't encourage cohabiting. I believe that a lot of the time people cohabit and then they do what's called sliding into marriage. They weren't necessarily trying to get married, but things were working out. It was kind of nice. They had the companionship, and it is nice that I get to keep a bit more of my money because I'm splitting the bills. Then you start having a physical relationship, maybe some kids come along, and you're kind of living like husband and wife, but you never really planned to be husband and wife. And now you're in this situation where you've been living like this for so long. It's like, should we just bite the bullet? But then once the pressure of being a husband and wife actually comes in the situation, actually that cohabiting couple splits up. It's more of a correlation than causation. But there are a lot of people who live together before they get married and it doesn't work out afterwards. And so, you know, it was just crazy for me. Shout out to African Millennial in the building. This is a sister from another mister. She's doing the damn thing. So if you guys are not familiar with her channel, please subscribe. If you like traditional women, if you like common sense and logic, if you even remotely like me, I'm telling you, you're going to love her. So just please, and for African Millennial in the chat, drop your link in the chat, so that I don't know if the chat can take links, to be honest with you, because I keep asking people to do it and no one's doing it. So it's just crazy. Oh my gosh, we've got the dynamic duo in the house. African Caribbean Diaspora Talks. She is an absolute legend. Logic plus tax. I mean, I'm so glad you guys have managed to come through, because I just couldn't. This is one of the reasons why I said I wasn't going to go up, because I can't control it. Once people start pushing my buttons, coming like the pussycat dolls, talking about buttons out here, it was crazy. Okay, so there are certain aspects of our personality we have to develop with other people because they're going to trigger us, which, all right, I'll admit I've got an issue. And they're going to bring out skills in us that we don't necessarily get to exercise until we're in these relationships. Okay. But this person kept saying, why don't the men want to marry? And I thought, well, what are you talking about? I know a lot of women have had sometimes multiple proposals, and they, for some reason, dated these guys to the point where the guy proposed, but then they didn't get married. And you're like, how the hell do you stay in a relationship so long that the guy drops to one knee with a ring and then you don't get married? Not once, but multiple times. And what I've come to understand is when these women say, um, these guys don't want to get married, what they mean is the men who I have selected and elected, these guys don't want to marry us, which is not the same thing as you guys realized you're so compatible and you have this future and you realize, oh, I don't want to go on without you in my life, so let me lock you down. That's not the same thing. It's not the same thing when a man turns around, and this is one of the deflections, well, if you say women control sex, men control marriage. Yes, but just because a man is the one who's supposed to ask the woman to be his wife, that doesn't mean that because the man is sleeping with you, he sees you as wife material. Like, women have to accept that if a man doesn't drop to one knee and take you up the aisle, he doesn't want to drop to one knee and take you up the aisle. Okay? The way you know a man wants to marry you is he will marry you. He will actually go to book somewhere and get a person who's got the legal power to make you his legally, lawfully wedded wife. If he's not doing that, it's because he doesn't want to do that. Just because a man is sleeping with a woman doesn't mean anything. It just means you were there at the time and he liked you enough to be intimate with you. Okay? So this person is asking, why don't these guys marry us? And I couldn't understand why you would ask this question, because a lot of men say they want to be married. Even SYSBM is about men wanting to find wives. SYSBM is not passport bros, where it's just about traveling and going to different countries and enjoying, women around the world. A lot of these men leave the black community because they're looking for wives. So I can't understand how you said these men don't want to get married. And I know a lot of these women get multiple proposals until this person kept talking. And then I realized, oh, okay, you basically are trying to turn a pig's ear into a silk purse. That's a very old British saying. A lot of people may not be familiar with it. Grogu says, African, make sure you guys subscribe. People want to play house, they shack up and do all the things that are right within marriage without making the commitment of marriage. So many black women fall into this category. I don't even know. I'm just ranting. This has been quite the 2 weeks. It definitely has. It's kind of like common law spouse, where it's legit, but when you live together for so long without marriage, they call it common law. Yeah, kind of like a concubine in the Bible. Yeah, that doesn't really make sense. And this is the problem that a lot of these women have. You're giving privileges that belong to a spouse to a person who hasn't made you their wife. And that's the reason why a lot of women are talking and getting burnt. And this is why even a lot of dating and relationship advice, it technically doesn't make any sense, because the things that you should be giving to a husband or a wife, you're giving it to somebody who hasn't reciprocated that level of commitment to you. And then if you deplete yourself in the dating stage, what exactly do you have to give to the person after you go up the aisle? This is why people were supposed to be living with their family till they get married. You're supposed to be a virgin when you get married, yada, yada, yada. So once you cross that threshold into the new phase of your life, There's a whole host of things for you to enjoy and try and do. This is one of the reasons why so many modern people, struggle to get married, because they almost feel like, what is there to look forward to? I've already experienced so many of these things that, once upon a time people only did in marriage. Like, I've met older men, and you're talking to them and you say, "Oh, do you have any children?" And that they answer with this strange answer, which I thought was strange, but it's not that strange. They're like, I was never married." And you're thinking, well, hold up a minute. I don't know if you know this, right? But you can produce a kid without a ring. I don't know if you know this. But in their time, in their culture, you didn't have children out of wedlock just like that. And so if you had a child, the assumption was you were married. And so trying to get through to this person that we're talking about an overall cultural thing, it was such a chore. It was such a chore. It was too much. The foundation of a society is always the family. And we have a lot of broken families and a lot of brokenness in our communities. And until we start addressing that issue, we'll never even have the power. It's like, we want to talk about changing legislation and trying to create infrastructure. And as Black people, we want to do certain things and form a functioning community. But we can't move as individuals. We have to come together more as a block. But you cannot come together as a block if you have people who don't have the interest of the entire community at heart. Other groups, they are able to move like a block because they have a code, they have an understanding, they have a common goal. But when you have this kind of disjointed group of individuals just coming together, this one wants this, that one wants that, this one's talking about the collective, this one's talking subjectively, this one's for themselves. It's just confusion. It's complete and utter confusion. And that's why a lot of these conversations just descend into chaos. They don't really go anywhere because you have too many people trying to do their own thing. And I just need to let off some steam, because this was literally a literal crazy, it was a crazy set of events. Lisa, shout out to Lisa in the building, first time in the chat. It's hard to see when a friend of mine has been doing this for years. The guy didn't want to give her $60, only gives her money when he feels like it. And it's like the person who we're talking about, they came from a dysfunctional background. And, people ask me, what did I think? And I thought, I'm not really sure. But it sounds like what, Kevin Samuels recently brought this up, but I think I've even talked a little bit about this before myself. It's like the concept of what is known as the mother wound. I was thinking about this the other day. Why is it we have such an issue with aggressive, overbearing women? Why is it people really have an issue with mothers who are hard and not nurturing? And I realized it's because for the first few years of most of our lives, we had mothers who were quite doting, I'm sure. Like, obviously, we can't remember, but we were small, we were cute. I was on the train the other day and I watched these women just fawning over this couple and their baby, and everybody was just enamored by what this child was going to do next, which was nothing apart from stand, scream, and sit. And it's just like, they just, oh my God, oh my God, all looking at each other and cooing. And I thought, okay. And so the power of a baby, right? Imagine if the baby was like Stewie from Family Guy. It's like, ha ha ha, I will use my cuteness to manipulate you, ha ha. But it's like, it doesn't quite work into adulthood. But for the first few years, in those formative years, the first couple of years, all we see is nice mummy. Mummies are nice. I can't remember, but I'm assuming. They pick you up when you cry. Every time you say you're hungry, they give you food. They're shaking the rattle. They're cuckoo and, goo goo gaga, whatever, baby talking to you. The mums are probably always smiling. But as the child starts to grow a little bit and become more, autonomous, terrible twos and things like that, mummy's going to change. And the child now has a conflict. Where's the nice, nurturing woman that I used to know gone? How come all of a sudden you're always telling me no? You're always shouting at me. When I want to move, you put me back where you left me and all this kind of stuff. And so we grow up understanding, because of those first few years of life, a mother and a woman is supposed to be soft, because that's all we knew for the first few years of our life. And this person couldn't understand how having a harsh, abrasive, abusive mother is going to cause mental health problems, because the shift is so great from maybe nurturing, kind, nice mummy to monster mummy that, it's going to destroy your psyche. The first person who is supposed to love you, support you, care for you, protect you is your mother. And the relationship we have with our mothers and our primary caregivers, it shapes how we see every other relationship we go on to later have in life. And I don't want to go too much into it, because I don't want it to be like a drag fest and a bash, right? But it's like, if you don't understand how deep having an unsupportive, unloving, unforgiving, just overly critical mother can be, it's like, it really is a wound. It's an emotional wound. And it can scar the way you see other relationships, because we generalize out from what we know. If you grow in a household where everybody's criticizing you all the time, you have a very negative self-image. You have a very low self-esteem. You have a very critical voice about yourself. And then you assume when you go out into the world, people will see you based on the way you're being told this is what you are at home. So even when you get out of that home environment, you will go into other relationships with equally abusive people. Hence why people have abusive parents at home, or or their father used to abuse them or something, and then they go and date a man who also used to hit them. A primary example of this is April Mason. April Mason was abused by two different men in her childhood, and in her first marriage she was also being abused by the husband. It's not a coincidence. This occurred because she normalized being mistreated, to the point where it was so familiar, she left from one abusive situation where she was being victimized and placed herself in another situation where she re-victimized herself. And a lot of these women don't want to understand that the way we are raised at home, it's what we internalize, and then we go out into the world and we attract. That's why people say you attract what you are. When you are broken, or when you have certain thought processes, you're going to attract people that are familiar, even if they're dysfunctional to the point of being dangerous. And I'm trying to get through to this person, but they're just like, I don't understand what you're saying, does not compute. It's like, you cannot make somebody who doesn't want to do right by you do right by you. The only thing you can do is leave, because that person is a grown adult. They know who they are. And even if they don't, they are what they are. And that's why dating is so important. I'm not just speaking to people in YouTube land. I'm talking to me too, even though I'm not really dating. I'll be honest with you. But dating is, I'm refreshing my own memory. So let me get the mirror and look at myself while I talk as well. We have to date to get to know the person, to see whether we're on the same page. You cannot project or assume or ascribe to people thoughts and feelings they don't have, because you will be disappointed when it doesn't go anywhere. And that's what these guys in that female sector, that's why I really can't bear them. Somebody asked me, why do you keep banging? Because one of the hot topics was single mothers. Why do you keep blaming everything on single mothers? I'm really biting my tongue, which is obviously irrelevant because I'm typing, I'm not talking. So really I should bite my fingers. I'm really struggling not to start using bad language, because I'm like, which part of I'm not blaming single mothers for everything do you not understand? It's a thing where you have to control or be accountable for what you can control. You can control who you date because you are in a land where you are free to pick who you want to date. When I hear a woman say we hate patriarchy, I'll think, oh Jesus, I give up. I quit. I'm done. I quit. Because yes, was patriarchy perfect? No. Was there oppression and are there abuses when people have power? Of course. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Once people understand they're in a position of power, there's a risk for them to abuse other people with that power. All right. But one thing that was good about patriarchy is you were supposed to bring your man home for your family members to vet him. Your father was supposed to give him the rundown and ask him questions you never would have thought to ask, because he understands how a male thinks. He understands what males are capable of, because he's probably done some of the same things or at least thought about it. He understands how to ask that guy, what exactly are your intentions for my daughter? And the reason why so many modern women are unprotected and they're getting into these situations and they're getting abused and they're getting stalked and things like that is because in a lot of cases they don't have active fathers in their lives. They don't have fathers overseeing the situation and making it really clear. Even if you harm my daughter, I just want you to understand you will come up missing. You will be on a milk carton and they won't find the remains because I already have a nice deep ditch with your name on it. Play games with my daughter's life. You won't have a life left. Like, he comes through to let you know, play the game and we'll see who's laughing at the end. But these chicks who don't have fathers in their lives, I'm trying to explain to somebody, bro, you have to understand one of the reasons why children, whether you're male or female, you need a father. Especially, all right, put the boys to one side because they need something different from a dad. Why do daughters need a father? Because you need a man in your life who is giving you non-sexual validation. You need to feel what it feels like for a man to love you and cherish you and value you as a female, from a man to a woman, without him trying to take you to bed. So when you meet a guy and he's pressuring you, or he's trying to sweet talk and seduce you, or you feel like this love is not genuine, you can compare it to genuine love. A father's love is supposed to be pure, and his interest is supposed to be at the height. He wants to see his little girl do well. So you are supposed to know what it feels like to be cherished by a man who sees you as something other than a sex object. This is why these girls, when they're raised by single mothers, a lot of the time they're going to have children because they're looking for male validation, but they don't understand that bargaining their sexuality is not the same as true love. I'm not saying that a man who's sleeping with you can't love you. We all know that there's such a thing as eros, sexual love, and it binds a man and a woman, and ideally a husband and a wife. Of course, a man who's in theory having sex with you is supposed to love you, right? That's for marriage. But there's a love that you're supposed to experience from a man that's not connected to anything sexual, so you can feel what it's like to be validated without the person having an ulterior motive. Because even a man who loves you but he's sexually attracted to you, like the guy likes you and he wants to marry you, obviously at some point once you get married you're going to have a sexual relationship. Even that guy, he's not going to pressure you because he cares about you. It's about understanding what it feels like to have somebody care about you. Not just try to finesse, not just try to sweet talk, not just try to seduce, but actually care. That's what the point is of having a father in a daughter's life. And these girls that grow up without a father, they don't know what it feels like to be approached by a male who isn't just trying to sleep with them. And seeing as from a young age, they're going to get males trying to approach them sexually. They don't even know the difference between the guy who's approaching genuinely because he likes her as a person versus the person who's just trying to sleep with her. This is why these girls are confused, because they don't have boundaries and they don't have a point of reference to go back to. Trying to explain this to a grown person with two adults was like, I might as well just talk to this wall, because I'm sure the wall would understand before the person would. It was too much for me. Lisa said it's hard to see when a friend of mine has been doing this for 4 years. The guy didn't want to give her $60, only gives her money when he feels like it. I mean, what do you say to a person like this? It's supposed to be obvious the guy's not really interested. How the hell I've got to beg on knees, please, can you give me some money, please, please, can you give me some money, please, please? Like, change my name to Oliver. Please, can I have some more? It's too much. It's too much. And the person will swear down that this is a loving, healthy, happy relationship. Recently, somebody told me some bad news, and I looked at the situation, I shook my head. I said, girl, you're supposed to know better. You should have seen this coming down the pike. But when the person told me, I just made the face and I said, come on, girl, things happen in life. It's going to be all right. But deep down in my heart, I was like, you should have seen this coming. But what can you say? Next thing you say something, people say, oh, you're too bad mind. You're a hater. You're a this, you're a that. There's nothing you can say. This person is spinning their wheels for 4 years, and the guy's struggling to find $60. There's nothing. What can you say? You can just be there to pick up the broken pieces with the person, because if they're not going to listen, there's a saying, those who can't hear, they will feel. African millennial said, I used to think those 40, 50-year-old men who never married or had kids were weird, but they actually were the most responsible people. Exactly. A lot of people think that, it just is what it is. And again, this is another situation where people don't understand that men and women are different. A man comes into his prime in his 30s. He starts coming into his financial prime maybe in the late 30s, early 40s. So a lot of men don't want to have children, contrary to popular belief. A lot of men don't want to have children when they know they're not in a position to raise those children and care for them. So they would rather not have kids, and then they're not pressed. They don't have the biological clock ticking in their head saying, you've got to try and have a child now or you're going to lose your opportunity. Which was another point of contention, because this person keeps saying, I don't want my fertility window to dry up, and I basically haven't had a chance to have children and experience what it's like to be a mother. It's like, well, what about what your children need? This isn't just about you. This isn't about fulfilling just your selfish ambition to have a child. Some of these women, they talk online, right? I don't know who here ever went to Girl Guides. I don't know who here went to, Cub Scouts or whatever, or freaking, what's that thing called? Brownies. Right, it's late night, I'm eating chocolate, don't judge me. And you get that sash, right? You get this sash, and you got badges that you stitch on the sash. You got stitch. You got, making a fire, you get a badge. Can tie some knots, you get a badge. A lot of these women approach life like they're one giant Girl Scout, right? They got this freaking sash, and one of them is, I got married, or I had a wedding, I pissed out some kids, I got a degree, I got a master's or 2 or 3 or 15, I got this career, I got a house somewhere in a car. And they strut around with this sash, right? They're like, oh, look, I've got a sash. Look at it. Do you see? I've got a husband somewhere. I've got some kids. I've got a car and a job and a career and a degree. And it's like, Your husband's sleeping with the freaking secretary. Your kids hate you. One of them's like run away. The dog died about 2 weeks ago. No one's noticed that Frigga's disappeared. You know, everyone at work doesn't like you. They don't even want you to come back. They're trying to figure out all kind of ways to sack your ass. You know, and everything you own is probably rented anyway. And you're strutting around with this sash like, look, I've got a husband, I've got some kids, I've got a car, I've got a degree. Like, what are you trying to prove to who? These women don't even want to be a wife or be a mother or be a good employee or whatever. They just want to brag to everybody that I've completed the checklist and I've got this sash full of badges. It's like, this is not what you're supposed to be living for. It's not about, unlocking some achievements on the Xbox. It's actually about fulfilling a role. It's not enough just to say I had some children and I've done my bit for the Black community. You actually have to produce some functioning adults. And it's just like, wow, I don't, this is a lot. This is a lot. I can't deal with this. So, so Linton said, God created sex for marriage as a righteous outlet, but now men and women don't understand they aren't entitled to someone they aren't married to. You know, sex has become pretty much a recreation. You know, it's a recreation out here. It's not, oh my God, you guys have been busy. Salute to everybody in the chat. Woo. I met this Jamaican woman on campus who's into me. And let me say this, even she has called out the toxic aspects of American Black culture on way of life. Of course, because at the end of the day, they understand traditional roles a lot more. And so despite the fact that, you know, that everywhere is going to develop the same way as we get internet and, you know, cultures overlap and everything. But as an outsider looking in, it's a little bit easier to see the wood for the trees, you know. When I brought up to my peers how sex is supposed to be a sacred thing, they looked at me like I was insane. Like, how dare you? But God thinks it's holy to be pure until marriage. Yeah, it's, you know, the scripture says that, you know, every sin we sin without our body, but sexual immorality is sin against our own body. And we know what it does when we are promiscuous, or, you know, even just getting into relationships with people that you shouldn't be in relationships with, even if it's not physical. The scripture also says hope deferred makes the heart sick. Putting your hopes in somebody who is not going to reciprocate that love, that time, that energy, that investment, over time, it can make you ill. It can make you feel depressed because you're like, well, what's wrong with me? Why this person doesn't love me? Now, there could be something wrong with you. You know, we've got to keep it fair and balanced. You could be nutty. But, you know, it's not just that. It could just be you're not a match, and you need to accept you and that person are not a match. There's perfect and there's almost perfect. And when you try to make something that's almost right, you're going to have problems, because it's like two lines that appear to be parallel. When they're close together, you'd think they were parallel. But the longer you make the lines, the wider the gap between the two lines become. And you realize this was wrong from the beginning, but it felt so close to right. We were just like, let's just try and force, you know, this tetrahedron shaped peg into this round hole. It's like, no, this peg was like the shape of like a tank, and you're trying to fit it in a round hole. It's just like, no, it's not, no. And women have a bad habit of trying to project feelings onto men and trying to make these men feel something they don't feel, instead of just accepting it for what it is and going and finding somebody else. So sex is going to bind you. Sex is going to help you to grow and bond and everything. But if you're bonding to somebody who doesn't feel the same way, you're setting yourself up for failure. You know, Dimitri said it's crazy because she's so mild and meek, all the while she smart and is living proof that feminine Black women exist. Yeah, of course. And she comes from a culture where that's actually a reality. Shout out to the Afropolitan podcast. Please hit the links and subscribe to the channel. Catch these teeth. Looks like Crimson was right with the whole bioculture and what? Bioculturon, the which I thought she was anyway. I think you're talking about shout out to Obadiah. I keep saying Obadiah. I don't think that's correct. Shout out to you in the building. Millennial, African millennial. You guys are laughing. I love children. I put a video up of my little cousin eating a family party I went to earlier. He's so adorable. Yeah, kids are all right, I guess. I'm trying to say this word and I can't. Bioculturon. I'm thinking that's is that hyperchimerism where people bond over their body fluids or something. Mommy will, yeah, she will if you let her. Play with her if you want to. Shout out to everybody who's hitting the subscribe button. People, they're wearing masks. This is deep. It's true. Some dudes will get spooked with that "what are your intentions" question. Then they're just not ready. They're just not ready, because even if the person gets spooked, I understand. But I mean, you don't necessarily have to ask it on the first or the second date, or you can ask it in roundabout ways where it's not just like, so what are your intentions? Tell me what they are now. You know, it's like, you know, you don't want to kind of strap the person to a chair with duct tape and get a torch in their face, like, I'm going to interrogate you. You know, it's like, I mean, that's obviously something you do after marriage when you know, like sexy time. No, I know it. Oh, look. Oh my God, shut up. So I need to erase that bit out of the tape. Every episode of this, something I've got to take out because I'm just being a little bit too honest. TMI, I'm not trying to get duct tape to a chair. I mean, anyway, look, can we all just stop talking about duct tape, goddammit? So anyway, because obviously I would never do that to somebody, but somebody who looks a bit like me might do something like that. But you don't want to start interrogating the person, but you want to have conversation. You just want to, you know, ping pong, tennis, hit it back and forth. The conversation. We're still talking about just conversation. Okay, wait. Am I the only one who needs to get their mind out of the gutter? So you have Eros, Agape, Phileo, and Eros, Agape, Phileo, and I can't remember. You've got family love or brotherly love. You've got friendship love. You've got the unconditional love of God, and you have sexual love. Okay, they're looking for their fathers or love, a love close to unconditional. Yeah, a lot of these females, they're looking for love in all the wrong places. It's such a cliche, but it's so true. It is not a compliment if a guy wants to have sex with you. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that men and women are just hardwired differently. Sex can bond a man, but not in the same way and not as quickly. And so when women are having lots of sexual partners, I know we talk about the concept of bonding or what's that, pair bonding, but you know, there is something to be said that maybe people who already had an issue with their ability to bond, that's why it's so easy for them to be promiscuous. It's not really the other way around, but kind of like once you get into that habit, then you kind of just slip into that lifestyle. And so again, why is it so important to have stable families? Because when people understand how to value themselves, they don't feel the need to get lots of external validation where they're putting themselves in situations where they can be exploited. Okay? You guys are laughing. Chicks, be sleeping out here with dudes who wouldn't go find them if they were missing. Exactly. And it's crazy and it's sad. But again, it speaks to the way you're raised, because our inner voice and our sense of value is determined by our primary caregivers. If our parents wouldn't come and look for us when we were missing, for example, or when we have certain situations that are important and they don't take an interest, we internalize that as, I'm not valuable, I'm not worth it. So if you already feel worthless, you're going to go, you're going to accept. It's not even you're going to go. It's kind of like, different men are going to approach you, but which ones do you retain in your life? Okay. And how you view yourself is going to impact who you tolerate and who you excommunicate. I was going to say extricate. I think extricate is when you go in and rescue somebody. Okay. I'm trying to do a Red Supreme with the rhyming slang. We're all flop. So these chicks are sleeping with guys who wouldn't hear about them if they're missing. And this is part of the heartache. Because again, these women think, I'm giving you something so valuable, I'm giving you access to my body, and the person doesn't value it. And so obviously you're going to have heartache afterwards, because you're like, I gave her this special gift, why don't you value it? It's like, because it wasn't that. You know, Grogu says women think that they get more street cred the higher the body count they have. And once upon a time, and actually that's becoming more of a reality. More and more women are actually feeling like they're men and that they can do what a man does, allegedly, which is not true, because men are having sex less and the age at which they're losing their virginity is going up. So this whole idea that men are just slaying, bees all over the place, it's not even happening. It's happening for a handful of men, not the majority of men. Change my name to Oliver. Please, 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 can I have some more? It's like, can I have some more love? Can I have some more affection? Can I have some more attention? Can I have some more everything? And it's like, no, no, I didn't, but I really wanted to. In the Bible, Abraham had Ishmael and his handmaid Hagar when he was 90 years old, and Isaac was conceived by Sarah as a promise from God when she was 100. Yeah, Abraham was pressed, but not that much. And no, the boss didn't come in this time. The boss is in my house at 3 o'clock in the morning. We've got problems, real problems. Okay. You guys are laughing. I pissed out some kids. You guys are out of control. Oh, wait, or is it just me? We are what we attract. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh. You guys, if you guys are here, you're either super intelligent or mad and maybe a little bit dangerous. Look, I'll let you guys decide. I would rather live a modest life and have what I need and have my kids love me instead of having some amazing career. You can work or whatever anytime, ladies. Exactly. There's then again, there's nothing wrong with a woman wanting a career. If that's what she really wants, just stay single, because once you have children, they're going to depend on you. They want to know that you are coming home and this and that and this and that. And so if it's so important to you to be a career woman, we live in a time where that's not a problem anymore. But don't try to get the sash where you just want to brag that you've accomplished these goals, but you haven't actually put the work into those people, because this is not a fire that you just throw some water on it after you've proved to everybody you can rub the sticks together and poof, there's a fire. You actually have to maintain these people. A relationship, a marriage, it takes work. So in raising a child or being a good employee or building a business, all of these things take consistent time, energy, and work. And so it's not enough just to brag, I had the ceremony. The wedding is not the end of the race, it's not the finish line. The wedding is the start. Now you've got to maintain that relationship once you say I do. And a lot of women, when they say I want to be married, which was another bone of contention, the person kept being asked, do women want marriage? And they're like, yes, but it's like, do you want the wedding or do you want the role? Because those are two different things. Lisa said, I remember when my former supervisor said that her husband bought her a new car, but we knew she bought it for herself. Why is Lisa putting everybody on blast, Rob? Why? Why? Lisa is literally giving away all the goddamn secrets. Oh my gosh, I can't cope with this no more. Guys, get the likes up, please. You know what I mean? Don't be stingy with the likes. A like is free. Shout out to Bronzebird in the building. What can I do? I'm trying. We love fantasies. And this is this is a problem. And this is the beauty of being a woman. Women are supposed to be fun, they're supposed to be exuberant, they're supposed to be creative, silly, a bit playful. That's what's supposed to counteract the man's stoicism and his firm stance and discipline. That's why we're supposed to be a yin and a yang. We're supposed to complement each other. Where he is hard, we're supposed to soften him up. And we're a bit loosey goosey and goofy all over the place. He's supposed to give us a bit more structure and discipline. But once you start living in the land of unicorns, where you walk on the yellow brick road to go and see the wizard, now we've got problems. Now you've gone a little bit too far. Yes, you have. So a biocult iron. Okay. The relationship between biology, culture, and environment. I have heard about this. And yes, it's not one thing or another, it's everything. We have a nature which is innate, it's biological, even without somebody kind of socializing you as a boy or a girl. We know from studies, if you give children a range of toys, they will gravitate more towards gender specific toys. The boys play in a certain way, the girls play in a certain way. They like certain types of toys. We know this is biology. But obviously, this is going to be reinforced and developed by culture and also what we have in our environment. If you're in an environment with a lot of abundance, you're going to see a lot of problems because people have too much free time on their hands. They don't have things to preoccupy themselves with. Once upon a time, you spent all day doing things manually. Everything took longer and it was more physically demanding. You had to sweep the floor by hand, mop the floor by hand. You had to, wash the car by hand. You're scrubbing out clothes by hand, dusting, sweeping, you name it. Going to the shops was a walk or a bicycle ride. It was a lot. So you didn't have time to mope and be depressed. You didn't have time for 100, box seasons. You literally just woke up, you got on the job, you started cooking. Maybe there was no fridge. You have to go and purchase food every single day to cook fresh meals. It was a lot. So now with modern conveniences, things can be delivered to your door. You can work remotely from home. And to be honest with you, if you live a humble life, you might have an excess of cash. You literally have a lot of time, energy, and money at your disposal. And that's why people are becoming so depressed. They've got too much time on their hands that they're not channeling into anything meaningful. And sitting down in front of the TV all day is probably not doing us any favors either. And so, especially when we talk about, I know this is a hot topic, but when we start talking about the concept of white supremacy, how is our biology coming under attack? Well, biology is coming under attack because of the food that we're eating. A lot of it is not real food, too many chemicals, too processed. How is our culture being impacted? One of the biggest influences is obviously the media. Social media and mainstream media is constantly bombarding us with imagery, not to mention the actual addiction to social media, hence why I'm you know, it's 2:30 in the morning or 3:30 and I'm still on social media. But, you know, anyway, no one's supposed to judge me anyway, because this is a judge-free zone. Only I'm supposed to do all the judging, God damn it. And then obviously the environment, well, the environment is, we all can see what the environment is like. Okay. I said, don't mention the duct tape anymore. Everybody's getting super scared. I would much rather be happy with a small wedding even at a courthouse or at a small church and have many happy years to look forward to, not just a big wedding. You know, one of the things that's really stressing people is this big wedding business, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. People are going abroad. People are going, it's costing people tens of thousands to get married. And I'm like, I'd be the kind of person like, do you want to go Vegas? And we'd get married dressed like, you know, the Joker and Harley Quinn. I swear to God. Like, we'd just go and get some Star Wars costumes and we'd have very interesting wedding pictures. Because really and truly, the ceremony is not the marriage. No amount of money on the wedding is going to guarantee a happy marriage. And you got to lay that groundwork. You got to do, we all have to do due diligence if we are single and seeking a spouse. And this conversation just drove me up the wall, because it shouldn't be so difficult to get through to an adult person who's had children that this is how you're supposed to approach dating. But for some reason, this person keeps wanting to personalize things. They keep wanting to make this general when we're talking about individual personal responsibility. And if like, I don't have the skill set for this conversation. I'm more of a like, let's kick the door down and then kind of just shoot the lock and kick the door. Just marching with size 10 boots, and everyone else is kind of tiptoeing and getting somewhere. And I'm just like, no, no, no. It's just like, oh, you really need to work on that. But Dimitri said, my friend went, what's that? My friend went on a mission trip to Ghana, and she made note that the food was different. She and her group couldn't even finish a plate because their food was so filling. Exactly. Here, the food is so processed. We don't even know sometimes if it's real food. Everyone's seen the videos of fake food, fake lettuce, fake rice, which is actually pellets of plastic or something. We don't know what they're giving us. And then a lot of the food is being stripped of its nutrients, bleached and things like this. It's not real nutritious food. Food is going down in quality because of the production. And even that's having an impact on our hormones, because if they're filling the food with a lot of fillers, or, you know, there's a lot of estrogen like compounds, that's actually problematic. Even as a woman, having too much estrogen in your system is going to deregulate your body's hormonal productions, because if the body can sense that you have estrogen, it's not going to produce estrogen. And the act of receiving love, receiving gifts and nurturing stimulates the production naturally of estrogen. So when people are in a very sufficient environment, or they you know, they have a lot of estrogen in their food, in their chemicals, in their shampoo, in their cosmetics, or what have you, it makes it very hard for people to receive, well, women, not men. Estrogen, I think for a lot of men, it's just going to feminize them. But for women, it actually makes them quite hard, because they have so much estrogen or estrogen-like compounds in their system, their body is not triggered. How can I say this? It's like you hear your tummy grumbling and you feel the urge to eat. And the urge to eat drives you to take the action, which is go and seek food. When your body needs estrogen as a woman, you're supposed to feel agitated to go and look for somebody to give you that love and that reception, or to give you something to receive, I should say. But when you have a body that's full of estrogen, not naturally, but because of all the chemicals in the things you're eating, you don't even go looking for love. which is another reason probably why a lot of modern women don't feel like they need a man. It's because we have so much estrogen and estrogen like compounds in a lot of the things that we use on a daily basis. This is why I advocate for Black people to go into the agricultural industry and engage in subsistence farming, but find a way to use seeds from other countries. That way you avoid food processing. It's true. Just trying to be, organic, going organic, it's going to help you in some way, because we don't know what these chemicals are doing to our bodies, and they're messing up our hormones. They're messing up our ability to just have a full range of emotions. We don't understand what's actually happening. So yeah, so I came out of that stream and I thought, how can somebody who is this mature in age be this confused about basic principles, like, one second. How can you be this old and be this confused? It's frightening to know that you have children, but you just have no clue what you're supposed to be doing. The person brought up something to do with, this person said, why don't women take the girls and the men take the boys? And I'm like, that's not how child rearing is supposed to be, because even a daughter needs a father. There are so many things that a father is going to take a daughter to the side and show her and tell her. You cannot just say the women raise the girls and the boys get raised by the men. Yeah, there's certain things that only a man can teach a son, but that's not the same as, having no input, because a son will need a mother as much as a daughter will need a father. But why do children who are raised with fathers turn out better? Because fathers are logical. Fathers are not emotional. They don't react to everything the same. If you have a parent, a primary caregiver who's supposed to be setting an example for you, and from, you accidentally spilling some milk to basically, you harming another child at school or something, if that person reacts the same across the board, how are you as an adult going to go out into the world to know how to appropriately respond to things? You're going to overreact to everything, maybe even things you don't need to react to. You're going to, because that's what you witnessed growing up. Whereas fathers, for the most part, by nature, men do not really like addressing small petty things. Like, little things just make them irritated. If you bring them something that's really not that important, they become frustrated. They become a bit annoyed and agitated, because they're like, why are you bringing me this small thing? But when it's something really big, they will spring into action. And that's the appropriate response. Certain things we just have to sweat it, just let, not sweat it at all, just let it go. And so children who are raised by fathers, they have a tendency to be more appropriate with the way they react to life. Whereas women, we fly off the handle about everything. The littlest thing, from a cup in the sink to a cushion that's out of place, we're losing our minds. And that's not a way to navigate the world outside of our homes. So children who are raised by emotional caregivers, they go into the world thinking they can just be emotional with everybody. And that's especially not going to work when you have men or males who have a lot of testosterone. And hence why a lot of these female raised males are just so, they argue and they bitch and they catty, and they're fighting, and then the next thing they're pulling a gun on each other. This behavior comes from a lot of this emotional upbringing. And that's not me trying to blame single mothers for everything. That's what somebody said. But you have to be accountable for what you can control. It's not about saying everything is single mother's fault. That would be ridiculous. But a lot of these issues in the Black community start at the grassroots level, which is the family. So some people have been mentally stunted. I try not to make sense of it, because if I try, then I will experience mental burnout. It is exhausting trying to get through to somebody who's really not willing to try and see things from another perspective. And I suppose the point comes where you just have to walk away, because the person is adamant that they're right and you're wrong. And it just is what it is. So yeah, these were some of my thoughts. I was just like, oh, I didn't want to say any more because it was already getting quite heated. But there's just some people, it's gonna take a lot. It's gonna take someone with the patience of a saint to help them, because they are so adamant that their way is the right way, that nothing you say to them is going to change them. There, let it all out. Shout out to Manuel one too. I saw you in the last live stream. Yeah, I feel better now. I don't know about anybody else. But yeah, it was a lot. It was really a lot. Listening to the convoluted thought processes of somebody who's trying to justify basically wanting children without having a father, and when presented with reasons why this is not good for anybody in the situation, including themselves, they're still like, well, why are you bashing us? It's like, this is not bashing, but a lot of women complain about struggling as single mothers with children, by themselves. And it's like, well, why did you pick a man who didn't want to be married to you? I don't understand. Well, no, let me not go there and say I don't understand. I understand that these people, a lot of them were just failed by the previous generation. Sometimes it's generations of women who haven't managed to get it right, and they just pass down this faulty thinking and a terrible example. And some people are so invested in these narratives that even when you present something that should be quite obvious, they don't want to accept it because they just can't let go of the narrative. And it's sad. It's sad how these influencers, they use their platforms for evil. They use their platforms to basically destroy their audience because they themselves maybe are destroyed. I don't know. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. Duppy King, late to the party, but you and Kevin Samuels definitely on the same page. That's what somebody said to me. The person was so cheeky. The person said to me, you can't deny that you watch Kevin Samuels. I said, I don't want to be calling you all kind of B's and H's at this time of night or at any time of the day, really, because Jesus be listening. But I never denied it, so don't try to get me with a gotcha question. Okay. A decade ago, before I even knew the manosphere existed, I came across female content, by women who were returning to traditionalism, and they were exposing feminism for what it was. And I already knew that feminism was not a good thing. We're talking about, more than 10 years ago. So before, Kevin Samuels was a speck in the YouTube eye. Okay, when Kevin Samuels had maybe under 50,000 subs, maybe even under 20,000, I used to watch him sometimes when he had his shows for males. Okay, I've been watching him for years, long before he blew up. And this person trying to, you can't deny you watch Kevin Samuels. I'm like, just because you discovered Kevin Samuels last year, don't think everybody else did. Do you know what I mean? Trying to argue with stupid is going to make you stupid, and I'm not saying that the person is stupid necessarily, but I know some people are willfully ignorant. And so yeah, what can we do? SYSBM, where are the white women? Where them white women's at? Shout out to Celine if you're still listening. She's like, I'm here. And yeah, I mean, people just have to do what's in their personal best interest. And you can't help somebody unless they want to be helped. As they said, don't save them, they don't want to be saved. It just, I don't know. We've got to get back to traditionalism. We've got to promote it. We've got to support it. We've got to encourage people who are on the right path. We've got to speak to the young people. Maybe a lot of these older people are too late, too old to mold, too late to save. Just he's the poster boy, easy for most people to wrap their heads around. But yes, the focus is feminism. So more so white feminism. Yeah, at the end of the day, feminism was created because white men were oppressing white women, according to them. According to them, white men were treating them very badly. Even the concept of welfare was created because these men were leaving these women with, children. Now, I get it. Sometimes it was war. It was all kind of different situations. But also it was, I think, the Great Depression. You can't lead a jerk to chicken. You guys are crazy. You can't lead a jerk to chicken. Lord. You see, what's the difference between a horse and a woman? A horse will at least allow you to lead it to water. A lot of black women are not letting you lead them anyway. So, oh my gosh, did you just make a sexist joke? And earlier on today, I said it's better to get a new dog than to try to teach an old dog new tricks. Oh my God, they're coming for my neck. So, yeah, these, during the Depression, a lot of these men couldn't cope with not being able to, support their family. So one day they would just go out and not come back because they were ashamed, I guess. They were embarrassed that they couldn't take care of their families. And so welfare was created, but it's got a misleading name because it's not really for our benefit. It's not for our welfare. So that's all I've really got for this one. I really appreciate everybody who came through, who shared the content. As the image behind you says, if you want to become a wife, stop giving every man you meet husband benefits. And that goes the other way around as well. We've got to protect ourselves. We've got to set standards. We've got to set boundaries to say this is a privilege you only get when you commit to me, because you can't manipulate or love or sex or whatever. You can't do these things into marriage. If the person wants to be with you, they'll be with you. And if they don't want to be with you, well, you sleeping with them is not necessarily going to change anything either. You sleeping with them later, if the person can't even wait. I mean, for people who are obviously not in the faith, but even more and more people who are not religious are starting to abstain. They're starting to wait until marriage because they see that even doing it without God it still works better, because the people step back, they get out of that honeymoon phase, and they see the person for who they really are, not the image and the infatuation that you project onto them. When you pull back, you give them a chance to pursue you. But if you are going 100 miles an hour right at the beginning when you don't even know the person, well, the man is satisfied and he's gone. And then you're wondering, oh, he used me. But he only did what you allowed. So I think we've belabored this point enough. I really appreciate everybody who came through. Manu12, Duppy King, Celine, Dimitri. Shout out to, I see some new faces. The Afropolitan Podcast. Shout out to Lisa Bronsbird. Shout out to African Caribbean Diaspora Talks for sharing the link as well. I really appreciate it. Sub Obadyahu. I know I saw the lovely African Millennial. Check her out, please. I hope she put her link in the chat. If not, you can just search for her channel. And there was somebody else. It's gone far up, but I know I highlighted the comment earlier. Oh no. So for those who are in the UK, happy Sunday. For you guys in the States, good night. Happy Saturday night. Yeah, my battery's down now. The battery on my phone and the battery in my head. So with that being said, you know, I appreciate everybody who came through. Make sure you hit the like button or the dislike button. Share the video with somebody who needs to see it. Leave a comment in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.